Hi. I'm not going to talk about blockchain tonight. I think you already had your fair share of blockchain. I'm here to talk about e-commerce because, well, I have a background in e-commerce and I want to bring you a little bit of extra knowledge on e-commerce and how I think that blockchain will revolutionize e-commerce. I'm Rodger. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can see the Twitter handle. If you won't, then please don't. This is my son. I live here in Amsterdam. My son is a huge fan of Neo. He usually shills Neo to his teachers and friends at school. Besides that, I'm also a fan of Neo and especially the Neo community. I have a background in e-commerce of a little bit over 15 years right now. I founded 3 companies within this industry. My first company was primarily focused on building custom e-commerce platforms, mainly for mid-sized to enterprise retailers. My second company was focused on conversion optimization within, of course, the e-commerce industry. My current company is Crowbox, which I will tell a little bit later about. Besides that, I am also a founding member of the Distributed Foundation. And with the Distributed Foundation, we try to build offline communities. And we organize conferences and events. Well, the last event we organized was for Neo in Amsterdam last April. We had a little over 700 attendees. Daan Vee was attending as well, and Eric Sang from Neo, of course, the founders. And over there I also presented Victor, or announced Victor as a project. Besides that, we're not only doing Neo-related events. A week later we also introduced Hedera Hashgraph over here in Amsterdam at Hotel Arena. So this is my current company, Crowbox. And what we do with Crowbox is we combine behavioral psychology with machine learning in order to build very rich shopper profiles. And we build those profiles basically to better understand purchase behavior online, but also to drive purchase intent. And we do this mainly for large enterprise e-commerce players in multiple countries. So we have a vast experience in the telco industry, fashion retail, travel, consumer electronics, across multiple countries. On a monthly basis, we process a little over 1 billion data points at this specific moment. And well, from there, of course, we learn a lot about consumer behavior. So reinventing e-commerce. As I said, I'm already in e-commerce for a little bit over 15 years right now. The reason why I'm in e-commerce is because I find it a very exciting industry and it's still growing rapidly. And I think for you to understand, to give a little bit of a better understanding on where we are today with the e-commerce industry, if you compare this to crypto right now, and the market size is that, well, this is a slide I constantly need to change, of course, but let's set this up as a strict number that the current crypto market size is around 360 billion euros. If you would compare this to e-commerce, is that the whole e-commerce industry at this specific moment, well, has around 1.8 billion online shoppers globally. We have around 25 million web stores on a global scale. And the total market size is 2.2 trillion at this specific moment. And in the next 2 years, this is going to double. So the whole e-commerce industry it's a huge market, right? It's like 9 times the crypto market at this current moment. So it's pretty substantial, if you ask me. But what's the problem of this industry? Already for 15 years while I'm in this industry, conversion rates are actually quite low. So 97% of the visitors who visit the web store, they do not convert. So if you think about it, if 100 people walk into a web store, well, people don't walk into a web store, but people visit the web store, only 3 people are actually buying a product. That's really, really low, right? Well, this all has to do with relevance, and there are of course multiple ways, but being relevant as a brand makes that you are able to better understand the consumer, and you're able to communicate in a much better way. And the way how you can be relevant, of course, is making use of user data. But this ties into the second problem, because collecting user data is becoming really harder and harder. This is a statistic from last month. In Europe, 42% of the people already are deleting their cookies. In the US, it's even worse. It's already 50%. And in Asia, it's around 45%. So on one hand, brands really want to be relevant, but in order to do so, they need to collect user data. But it becomes harder and harder to collect those user data. On top of that, this month we have the introduction of the GDPR. Who's familiar with the introduction of the GDPR? Yeah? Me too. Well, for people who are not familiar with the GDPR, it basically gives the right as a consumer to be forgotten. So you can go to a company where you're involved with, and you can ask that company to specifically to delete your data. Well, this will, of course, will become a huge issue, but it also has to do with the fact that the government wants to protect their consumers, right? Because consumers don't trust brands anymore. And this also has to do, of course, with the fact of the recent scandals we've seen with Cambridge Analytica and Facebook, but also the breach of MyFitnessPal, where there was a huge data leak of 150 million user profiles. All these types of events make sure that there's really a socio-economic shift going on. And this shift is already happening, of course. And in order to adapt to this, the e-commerce industry needs to adapt too, right? Because control from the retailer is really shifting towards the consumer. So for me as a founder of the company, and especially being involved actively in the e-commerce space, I really needed to think and create a vision on how e-commerce will evolve in the next few years and how e-commerce will look like. And eventually what I believe, it's Janelle, she's here as well. She's handing out signatures if you like. That what I believe is that eventually e-commerce will revolve around the digital identity, right? So the experience, the customer experience, will be so heavily and personalized that I won't search for products anymore, but the products will find me based on the data I'm willing to share with those brands. But in order to do so, you need to have a platform that basically facilitates relevance between merchants on one side and consumers on the other side. So that's what we're trying to do with Victor. So Victor is a decentralized shopping data platform, which is powered by Crowbox, and it will be built on Neo. So Victor it basically consists out of three core principles. And the first one is value. And what I mean with value is we're talking about data. And data, of course, represents a certain amount of value. And the second one is vault, because in the end, as a consumer, I would like to protect my data. I don't want to data be owned by the merchant. I want to own the data myself. And the third pillar in this specific case is that it's voice, because it's my data and I would like to have a final say on who I'm going to share it with. So these are the three core principles on which Victor will be built. So how will this work from a high-level concept? Well, the high-level concept is basically really simple. On one hand, we have merchants, and merchants want access to high-quality data in order to personalize the customer experience. And on the other hand, we have consumers who want to protect their data, but with sharing their data, they would also like to be rewarded for that kind of data. And in this specific case, they will be incentivized in this way. So that's on a high level how this would work. It will be an app. It will be built for iOS and Android, and specifically also for in Europe right now, it will be built as a browser plugin. But I think the best way for you to understand on how this actually will work in an e-commerce environment is through an example. So this is the Under Armour website. Under Armour is a customer of Crowbox for a little over 2 years right now. We work with them on a global level, and specifically in Europe. So let's assume you're a first-time visitor on the Under Armour web store, and you go to the web store, and you already have the Victor browser plugin installed. At that specific moment, Under Armour will recognize you as a Victor user, and you have the option to either go anonymously on the web store, or B, you choose to share your data. And you can share that data with all specific data points. So you have the option to only share your personal details, or your shipping details, or your payment details, or basically everything. It's up to you. The more you share, the more you will be rewarded with Victor tokens, right? So for this specific demo, let's assume that you will share your data. I'm 34 years old. I live here in Amsterdam. My favorite color is blue, and I like running. So I just decided to share my data. And based on that data, Under Armour has the option to personalize my customer experience. So they know I'm a male, they know my sizes, they also know my favorite colors, and they also know I like running. So they personalize the experience on the web store based on the data I've shared with Under Armour. I see those blue shoes, and I really like them, so I click on those shoes, and I go to the detail page. And on the detail page, already my size is pre-selected. I have shoe size 7.5. I tend to have very small feet. My favorite color is selected because my favorite color is blue. And I'm really triggered to add this shoe to my basket. So I add this shoe to my basket, and at that specific moment I get a notification that if I finish the order today, I will be rewarded with extra tokens. This is a specific campaign from Under Armour who would like to push me through the next step and really finishing the order today. So this is for me an additional trigger, and I decide to put the shoes in the basket. And I move forward to the cart. And when I arrive at the cart, I have the option to convert my current Victor tokens, which I already have in my wallet from previous transactions, to convert them in real time for a certain amount of discount. So I decide to convert a few of my tokens for a real-time discount, and I get a code which I immediately can apply on the store. So I copy-paste the discount code, I apply it on the store, and I move on to the checkout. When I'm on the checkout, I already shared, of course, all my details, all my personal details, so everything is already filled in. Oh, sorry. My address is filled in, my shipping preference is filled in, they have my payment details, so I can just pay in a one click. Next day, I get my shoes delivered at the door, and I get rewarded with tokens. I get tokens because I shared my data. I get tokens because I also was triggered by the fact that I finished my order at in the same session. And this is basically where we have a win-win situation. So Victor, on one hand, will provide you the ability to have a one-stop shop for all your personal shopping data. Right? So you have the able to control your data, but you also have the option to monetize it. You have all your transactions, your e-commerce purchases in one place. You have the ability to select your favorite brands, your colors, etc., your sizes, and based on that you're able to share it or not, however you like it. So how does this benefit the merchant? Well, the merchant on one hand, of course, has the ability to access high quality profile data. And because they access high quality profile data, they can be much more relevant. And as they are being more relevant, they are also increasing their conversion rates. And that's, I believe, a very specific problem that we're addressing and that we're also solving in this specific case. But because they also know more of the consumer, they're also able to communicate in a much more effective way, which also makes sure that they can build a stronger relationship with this consumer, which in the end will increase the lifetime value of this customer. On the other hand, we have, of course, consumers. The benefit for consumer is, I think, already addressed, but I have a one-stop shop where I can do all my data management on one side. I will be incentivized to share my data, and when I do so, I get rewarded, of course, with tokens, plus I get a personalized customer experience. So, Victor will be a utility token. We have defined multiple utilities, but this is really defined from a user and consumer perspective. So, earning the tokens will basically because I will share my data, but also because I leave product reviews, or when I invite new friends or family members to the Victor ecosystem. On the other side, we have spending the tokens, which will be based on getting discounts, but also making sure we can skip waiting lines or get free shipping or free returns, right? Well, as I already told, it will be built on Neo, primarily because I'm a huge believer of the smart economy, and especially because I also believe in the power of the community, which is very strong within the Neo ecosystem. And to give you a little bit of an overview on where we are going, this is our current growth plan. So we're already building the tools and the platform, and that will be powered by Probox, of course. Second to that, we're talking to global e-commerce leaders at this specific moment, which will help us build the ecosystem, especially on the merchant side. Well, together with my marketing team, we're defining different strategies on how we can grow the user acquisition system. We're raising funding, not at this specific moment because we already can fund it ourselves through the economics from, of course, Probox. However, in order to facilitate the growth of the platform and the ecosystem, we will do a private sale, which we probably will announce in the next few months. I'm not doing this alone. I have an experienced team within the e-commerce industry, which consists out of front-end and back-end developers, people who have experience with machine learning, with DLT, but also behavioral psychologists, marketeers. So it's a very, how do you say this? Mixed group of specialized people who are all, of course, experienced in the e-commerce space. If you have any questions, please do let me know. You can still follow me if you like, or follow Victor, of course. If you want to know more, you can visit our website, vctr.io. Thanks.